I'm now getting a lot of people say, Josh, I see what you're doing today where you're working with a bunch of billionaires, you're flying on private jets, doing awesome things, you're traveling a few times a month. How did you get here? And I'm hearing that over and over again. And so I'll tell you the full story as to how I went from selling nicotine sticks in high school to dropping out to getting my first apprenticeship to starting the business to failing the business to starting a new business to really taking off and now scaling at a point where it's hard to even imagine. It really started in high school when my best friend in the whole world came to me one day, junior year of high school, and said, dude, everybody in the bathrooms, he was saying, dude, nobody has nicotine. Everyone used to hit like jewel pods in high school, and I never liked them. But he was saying, nobody can find these. He said, there's a huge drought. He said, dude, I found a website from China that doesn't card you, that will allow you to order these nicotine sticks here. And he said, dude, why don't we just buy a few boxes and see if we can sell them? And I was like, no way. No, I don't want to. I was scared. I cared about the judgment of other people from doing that. I didn't want to, honestly, I just didn't want to do it. But PJ, he said, yeah, let's do it. So he started everything, honestly, the entire entrepreneurial journey. So we both put in $57 into this thing and we ordered our first few boxes and we shipped them to our friend's house because me and PJ both had strict parents. And we were like, we can't have this showing up at the house. One of our friends had chill parents. And so she took it in for us. And we sold out in probably 24 hours. It was instant. It was like an overnight hit. They said, dude, when can we get more? So we went from having $57 each invested to about tripling our money. So we just put all of that money into getting new supply. Got the new supply, sold out in probably 2 days. And then we said, holy shit, holy shit. Because we had two main components that we were doing. Everybody sold these nicotine sticks for $15. Me and PJ were getting them for 4 or 5. He said, why don't we just sell them for 12? Business 101. And so the second thing was everyone in our neighborhood that were selling these things were like gangsters. They were in gangs. They were fucking people that you didn't want. If you were a white dude like me and PJ, you didn't want to be buying from these people. You wanted the friendly neighborhood drug dealer to come out, which is what we were. We were very friendly and we had a refund policy if what we gave you didn't work. So we were running a real business from day one when everyone else was just trapping, and it grew like wildflower. We ended up growing to over 10 employees. That got completely shut down because we grew too big. I ended up getting shot at. Different story. I have posted a video about that full story. You can check it out. I think it's the first video on this channel. Then I said, I love business. We were juniors in high school, or this was during COVID, which was when we were juniors in high schools. We ended up getting shut down. And I said, I don't know what I want to do in my life, but I know that I love growing a business. I love making money. And I don't want to be a lazy bastard anymore. I want to make something of my life. I had nothing. I said, I don't know what I want to do, but I know I don't want to end up like everyone I see around me. That we didn't grow up in a wealthy neighborhood at all. And so nobody was successful and everyone looked miserable. Everyone just lived for the weekends. All of our parents, friends, everyone just was unhappy with life. And I wouldn't say unhappy, but just didn't live the life that I wanted to live. I saw people online that were living the life that I wanted to live, where they were traveling, they had freedom. I was a freedom maximalist from day one. And I got gone down this super libertarian movement, reading Atlas Shrugged, every single book I could get my hands on. And I decided that I was going to apprentice myself under someone who had already run a large business and was someone that I deemed successful. And I was reaching out to dozens of people a week, looking to work for them for free, looking to do anything to get my foot in the door, because I realized from a very young age that the people that I knew and that I had access to were really going to be dependent upon my success. And so I reached out to dozens and dozens of people per week, got no results. I mean, I got some small results, but no one that would allow me to work for them. And I was offering to work for people for free, or I was willing to pay people to work for them. I was willing to do a revenue share of however much money I make for a decade after working for them and what I learned from them. And I got no results. But eventually I got this one guy, George Gammon's logo tattooed on my leg. Let me show you. I got his logo tattooed on my leg and I flew to Arizona, where I am now. George doesn't live here anymore, ironically. I was in Massachusetts. He never even knew I existed. He never met me before. I got his logo tattooed on my leg before I met him. Could have been a terrible idea. Everyone at the time said that I was joining a cult, that I was retarded, that I was getting scammed, anything bad that you could imagine, that I was going to go get butt raped by older guys, anything that you could imagine, it was being said. And I felt a lot of pressure. I knew the decision I was making that was right because I thought about it from a business owner's perspective. I said, if I was a 50-year-old, incredibly successful guy, that I would see someone who was very ambitious and willing, and I would want them to work for me, but they have to prove it. I just thought about it from a business owner's perspective. And I knew that if I did this, it was going to work, and I could feel it. This is the first time in my life that I knew something was going to work before it ever happened. And it made 100% perfect sense to me. And it worked out just like that. And I started working with him. I was just doing macroeconomic research for his YouTube videos. But the first day on the job, he explained to me how YouTube worked. He said, the way it works is YouTube is going to first start by pushing your videos out to the people that have the highest likelihood of watching it. And then if they click on it and they watch it, YouTube is going to push that out to a secondary group of people that are still likely to watch, but not as likely. And then people who are occasional watchers, and then people that watch other channels in the same niche. And it's getting broader and broader to see what the TAM, the total market cap of people that want to watch a video that you're producing is. And it will push it out indefinitely because YouTube wants people to stay on the platform. So that's your job as a creator. He explained this to me and it made perfect sense. And so that means your job is to get someone to click on a video and get someone to watch it. That is it. If you can do that, then you will get unlimited views. So after months of working with him, Andrew Tate got super popular. And instantly, because I was studying this stuff, because George, we were trying to get more views for George, I realized what he was doing before anyone else. And I can truly say this for a fact, because I realized what he was doing to get super famous was he had hundreds of people clipping his content and distributing it across multiple different platforms. And that made it to where you could see nothing else but Andrew Tate on your feed at all times for a short period of time. And so I said, I'm going to start a business where I do this. I do the Andrew Tate mass clip redistribution. I hired 12 to 15 people where I was doing this for. The problem was I wasn't doing it for people that were charismatic, and we didn't give it enough time. We would do like a 1-month trial where they would pay me a few $1,000 and I would spend 100% of that on this. And we wouldn't see the results in 1 month. Doesn't mean that's because the business model didn't work. It's because I wasn't working with people. I was doing this with like random people at the time, friends of mine, but they were not charismatic people. They were not the ideal people to be clipping for. And we probably didn't have enough accounts. I wasn't good enough. I actually grew that to where I was doing about $20,000 to $30,000 of revenue. And I was actually spending $20,000 to $31,000 a month on just keeping it going, because all I cared about was showing them results. I didn't care about anything else, but that failed. At the same time, I was still just studying YouTube and studying everything around me. There was still all the people that I still watched because I was very into this stuff. There was one guy, this guy, Jeff Snyder, who is the most in-depth person on the monetary system in the entire world. He was the only person that I really liked watching, him and George, because I thought that I learned the most and I got the most education from. And what I did, because Jeff is very hard to get a hold of, and I really wanted to work with him because I thought that I could help him substantially, and I just wanted to help him out of just my heart because I loved what he was doing. I wanted to help him. What I did to land him as a client was, first off, he was already friends with George and I'd met him a few times before. I was friendly, but he did not know who I was. So what I would often go on to George's videos as like a back-end producer, what I did was I printed out a picture of Jeff and put him on my wall. And so it was unequivocally, if I was going on George's channel, people would then tweet that out and say, hey, Jeff, you got a fan. And then Jeff would come onto George's channel and I would come up and I would show him as a joke because I thought that it was funny, but also because I wanted to get his attention, show that, dude, I really like what you're doing. I was living back in Boston at the time. This is like a multi-year process when this was going on. I had moved to Arizona. I ended up moving to Columbia. I moved back to Boston and I was back to making not much money at all, but I was learning tons and I was getting the education. I did not care if I made any money in my young 20s. Right now I'm 22. I started when I was like 18 is when I moved out to Arizona, I think. Could have been 19. But I said, I'm just going to commit the next 3 to 5 years of just learning as much as possible. I don't care about making money in the short term. I just know that my education is what's going to take me further. I see all these young kids driving Lamborghinis. I don't give a fuck about that. I want to get in the rooms with the wealthiest people in the entire world and network with them, provide as much value as possible, and then start to work with them. And then I'll go from making no money to a ton of money, which that is where the story ends, where I am now. But anyway, I got Jeff's attention and I had his email. And I sent him the picture of me with him on my wall while I was on a video. And he then printed out a picture of me with a picture of him on the wall and put that behind him in some videos because he thought that it was funny. And so I was with a friend, and this friend, we've I've closed most of my clients with him. His name's Justin. And but long story short, I met Justin in Miami at a conference. We ended up flying somewhere. We drove somewhere. That's when I met George and I closed him. It wasn't the first time when I got his tattoo. It was about 6 months after that. I know I'm going on a deviated spectrum, but then he flew out to Boston to come and visit, and he was going to be flying down to Florida where Jeff lived. And I emailed Jeff and said, hey, can I buy you dinner in a few days? I'm driving from Boston to Florida and I just want to get dinner with you. And he agreed. So we went to his house, had a fantastic dinner. We took his family out. I snuck off and I paid the bill because that's what you do. It's just what you do. And I told Jeff, I think that I could really help what you're doing. I just want to help. And at that point, I actually had zero intention of ever charging him. Or eventually I wanted to make money, but only if I could make him a bunch of money at first. I wasn't thinking of what can I take from people. I was thinking, how much value can I give just so I can continue to hang out and learn from people? And this was actually my intent the entire time. I swear to God. Then what happened was the first video we did crushed it. He said, dude, we need to continue to do this. So that led down to saying, well, what should we do? I said, Jeff, I don't want to take any money from you unless it makes you more money. How about we do a revenue share from what we can do on your backend product and something else only above what you're currently doing. So you have zero risk. I'll take 100% of my time and put it into this. And so he agreed. After that, I went to a conference for one of the biggest marketers in the world, Eric Sue, which is now one of my friends. And we had a spectacular time. And after that, I got some naked men in the back. Continuing here, I went to that conference and I learned a ton of things about marketing in terms of how to turn a warm audience into customers. And after that, we implemented that for Jeff, and I had the biggest month of my entire life. I made a lot of money, and I was just so excited because I was glad to be providing him value, but also that I had a model that worked. And I was doing this for Jeff and for some other people. And then I said, I know the next person that I want to work with. His name is Ken McElroy. I ended up moving back to Colombia for the summer with George. And I said, next time I see Ken, I'm going to talk to him and I'm going to close him as a client. I knew it. I felt it. This is the second time in my life when I just knew deep down that what I was going to do was actually going to work. The first time was with George. The second time was with Ken. And he has a 10,000 unit real estate portfolio. He's a next level business owner, like completely different from everyone else who were retired or in business. This guy was legit. He has 300 plus employees and dude is fucking legit. So nonetheless, next time I saw Ken, and I saw Ken frequently because of George. Because I was with George, and anytime George would go anywhere cool, I would beg him to take me. Or I would honestly just finesse my way into any room humanly possible. And so that's what I did. Next time I saw Ken, it was at an event with George, and I closed him. And then I said, dude, I'm not going to charge you anything, only a percentage of additional revenue that I can create, but I would prefer to be in person because my objective from you is to learn how to run a business. So I flew out to Arizona. He gave me one of his apartments because he has 10,000. So he gave me one unit to stay in. And then he gave me a car, which was a 1957 Porsche Speedster. At that moment, I knew my life was about to change. And we crushed it, absolutely crushed it with Ken. And I was making a lot of money with no employees, having complete freedom, pretty much. Fast forward quite some time. I was just doing that, went back to Colombia for the summer. I was in Arizona for 6 months, went back to Colombia. I was just looking to expand. And I was thinking, I was very happy making the money that I was from that time period. I was working, let's say 3 jobs, but I had it pretty much automated by myself. And I was just doing really well. But I said, I want to turn this into a real business where we have 10 more clients like this and we're making hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars per month. It goes back and forth of times of comfort where I have all the freedom that I want to say, I want more. I want a better life. I want to retire my family, let's say. I want to do all the cool things. And so I went back and we said that we really want to scale this thing. So PJ came out to Colombia for the summer. He's now freaking automated everything because he's awesome. And we built out the systems to where we can scale. And now there's multiple different avenues of the business. For what we do is we'll work with these large businesses and do their online social media, do 100% of it for them. They only do an hour per week of recording. We take everything else and we distribute it all long form, short form, written. We make lead magnets. We're converting those into customers for them. And now we're finding sponsors for everyone because we're doing tens and tens of millions of long form views per month. We're working with guys like Robert Kiyosaki, pretty much anyone else, only really looking for whale customers, not small time people, only people that are going to be number one in their niche. And so I glossed over how I got to where we are today, but that's the story of at least part of it as to how I got to where I am now, where all my friends are some of the largest business owners in the world, mainly because of Ken's network and Robert Kiyosaki's network, and then all the people that I've met along the way. introduce you to their friends. And now I have one of the best networks in the entire world at 22 years old. And I did all of that without a personal brand, only by network, providing value, never being a leech and looking for something, just seeing what I can take from people, but just offering and trying to do better. And now where we want to take this is unbelievably far. There's so many things that I want to do. I just want to do well in life. And I'm excited. I'm really excited. We're in a position right now to scale like a fucking motherfucker. And that just gets my dick twiddling. And I'm really excited. We're having poker night at the house. The boys just got back from hiking and got a lot of work to do. But anyway,